Hello and welcome back to the Arma Hobby Hurricane project in 48 scale. This one is going to deal with the construction, and it all starts with bits and bobs that I need to stick together to maximise the drying time to avoid those dreaded ghost seams. So you can see this is the tropical filter. Now at this stage I still hadn't decided which colour scheme I was going to do it in, so I stuck this together and the normal radiator. Just because I didn't really know which one I was going to go for. And these are the drop tanks. So you insert this little piece here first, that's the mounting plug, and then the two halves can go together. And as with everything on this kit, it really is very well done. Fit is fantastic, and this will just go together. I'll just swipe a little bit of glue, and then maximum drying time before sanding it all down. So just sealing that join with a little bit more of the glue, not forgetting the pylons in the end bit, and then applying quite a lot of pressure, and that will squeeze any molten glue out, which will seal the seam. Two-part wheels. Normally I don't like two-part wheels, and we'll look for some resin replacements, but I have to say these are absolutely lovely. I've never really seen wheels as finely detailed as this. They're weighted on the bottom, they have sidewall detail moulded in, they fit lovely, and yeah, certainly don't need any aftermarket replacements whatsoever. Tail fin, that just comes in two parts. That simply just locks together. And then we'll just come in with the liquid glue along the front edge there, and that will just seal that all in. Again, squeezing it. Sorry for the dirty thumb. Once you get oil paint for an oil wash in there, it's really hard to get it out, so yeah, sorry about that. And again, using direct pressure there, and that will just seal up that leading edge join. Tail planes, again, these are in two halves. You can kind of see the way the parts are broken down there, both one piece, which is nice. And that sort of cap, if you like, just sits on the top. And this is what I like to do towards the beginning of the build, is just put all these bits together, and it just ensures that I can give adequate drying time. Any seam, well, you want to leave as long as you possibly can, but I would say a minimum of 72 hours. And then with the fuselage just taped together, I'm just going to have a look at the main event really, and I think you'll agree that is absolutely astonishing. It just looks like a panel line, and it just clips into place. It's just amazing. Time to glue those fuselage halves together now though, and I'm going to go back to my usual super glue method. So rather than using the liquid glue and then leaving it for a week, and then there's always the risk of ghost seams, I like to use the black super glue. So this has got some sort of rubberized component to it, and not only is it black so you can see where it's all going, but also it's less brittle, so there's less risk that the joint might crack. So all I do is just apply the glue here with an old scalpel blade, making sure I get all the way along the seam. If I can get both sides, I will. Just making sure that I'm not leaving any bits unglued at all. And then just applying a little bit of gentle pressure. Now this stuff, it doesn't dry instantly, so you do have a little bit of time to manipulate the parts, but the way Arma have molded the tabs means it's almost impossible to get a misalignment. Rather than having the sort of pin and the hole, you have these overlapping tab things, and it really is brilliant actually. And then it's just starting to bite now, so I'll go in with a little bit of accelerator just applied with this micro brush, applying the pressure to make sure I don't get any gaps, working my way along the seam. Even hitting this stuff with accelerator, it doesn't go off instantly like kind of normal super glue. Even though you have that, you have still a little bit of working time, but after 10-15 seconds it's all dry and we can go in and start sanding the seam. So that's the other advantage, is speed. Zero chance of ghost seams because you're actually cementing, you're sticking the two parts together with a glue. You're not welding it like you do with the traditional glue, which is going to melt the plastic. I'm just putting a little piece of tape down there just to protect some of the very fine surface detail on that side. Just using these Ammo of MIG sanding sticks, and I'm just going to sand away the excess glue. I do like the glue to ooze out, just to make sure I don't get any sort of gaps in there. Just using a skinny sanding stick for the gun sight mount, and then I'll go in with various grades of sanding stick and sponge just to polish away all the scratches. But it really is a very quick process because the fit is great, the glue dries practically instantly, and you can get on with sorting your seams out straight away. You see how I'm just maintaining the curve there just by the action, and I'm letting the weight of the sanding stick do its job. Now using some Ammo sanding sponge, I just cut these small bits off, and then using a little bit of water as a lubricant, just kind of polish the surface. And using the water means it doesn't sort of scratch the plastic as much. It kind of lubricates it and just helps the polishing. And I've had this one for absolutely years. This used to be, believe it or not, 400 grit. No idea what it is now, but it's absolutely brilliant for doing that final polish of seams, buffing paint. I use it all the time. It's one of my sort of indispensable tools, really. And you can see the seam there, the slight sort of black line where the glue was. You can see the sort of tabs on the inside there as well. And I've done the rear fuselage. That whole process of gluing the fuselage together took no more than 10 minutes. And now we can do another dry fit. And it still fits great. I do like it when you put a wing to a fuselage and it just clips into place. It holds itself there. Don't really need glue almost, but we're going to add some glue. We're going to add standard Ammo stuff. And this is why I really like this applicator, especially for this kind of job, where it's really precise. You can put the glue exactly where you need it. Don't need too much at all. And there is a very slight step just there, just at the front, and when you look at the real thing, it's there. I thought there was a bit of a mismatch, but no. And when you look at the tropical filter, which I ended up using, there's a slight step in it to account for it. Just applying a little bit of pressure while the glue sort of does its business, because we don't want this moving. You could tape it up, you could use rubber bands, but you're not using that much glue, so actually it's going to go off pretty quick. If you had any of the Tamiya quick setting, which I do, but decided not to use it in this case, that's probably the better job. Now I'm just going to sort out the leading edge seam. So on the Hurricane, obviously it's quite a fat wing. It's not one of these laminar flow things. So yeah, it's worthwhile taking the time to sort out the seams. Trailing edge nice and thin. Nearly said knife, but it's nice and thin. And it just takes a little bit of polish, just to get rid of any sort of excess glue, a little bit of what used to be molten plastic that's oozed out. Wingtip seam, just that's it. That's all the sanding that's required. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, tailplane was a bit weird. It had this kind of sort of rough area just on the inside. I think it's probably just been missed off the mold prep. But it's a job that takes just a few seconds with a sanding stick here. You just go in and just remove that, sand it all flush. Just using my nail there just to make sure it's all gone. And then this two-piece tailplane thing just glues down on the top, clips into place. Now it's slightly raised, you can see there, which is how it was in the real thing, and it was metal, it wasn't covered by fabric, so it's quite nice actually that they've replicated that, in that you do have that very slight step. So don't sand that away because it was there on the real thing. Just out of shot. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see that the under part of the rear fuselage is on, and it looks like a hook from a Sea Hurricane, and you would be right. I was going to do this as a Sea Hurricane, and I modified the parts using the Airfix bits, a little bit of sort of cutting, sanding, making it fit, and it worked really well. But then I realised I didn't have any decals for a Fleet Aeron one, so I had to go and sort that out. See how I did that in a minute. Just a little bit of Mr. Surfacer just to seal in the seams, but it fits lovely. Right, thanks to my mate Jen from Genesis Designs and Motorcraft. She said that this bit here was open, so I made a little smiley face, and if you just put the spinner back plate in, you just see those little bulges, you get the sort of scale effect. Thin just pops on the top. I did thin the plastic ever so slightly on the inside and on the mounting thing, because it was ever so slightly too wide. It was just splaying it out. But yep, once I did that, the fit was perfect. I mean, we're talking seconds just to fettle it, and you'll note it's not quite straight, which is how the real thing was. It was slightly off. The elevators just click into place. Just make sure you get them the right way round. Again, they're a push fit. You don't need glue, but I just used a little bit of glue. Just belt and braces, but yeah, they fit lovely. Bit of a theme for this kit is the fitting lovely. I did just open the holes slightly. Again, the fit was a little bit too tight, but widening those holes just made the rudder clip into place. gun sight goes in. Things are moving on now. Getting close to paint. That was just painted with the brush and ammo acrylics, that black area. And then here is the change of direction I spoke about. So it was a Sea Hurricane and now it's a Hurricane. Back to normal. I will be saving those parts, and I have another one on order, and it will be a Sea Hurricane. Okay, the radiator, that was glued together, and you're going to lose some rivets and panel line details just by cleaning it up, even though the fit is lovely. So it was out with the Dymo tape and the scriber, and I riveted it as well. There are some raised rivets on there that you are going to lose. So all I did is I used my Galaxy rivet tool and I used quite a lot of pressure, and that will make a raised rivet, albeit with a little hole in the middle. But yeah, it does a good job of replicating raised rivets actually. If you push it in quite hard, you can see the rivets there. Again, that was glued together with super glue for speed. And there is the flap on at the back. Now you can see where they've left the mounting lugs for the mounting rods and control rods for the radiator flap, but they're not included in the kit. But it's an easy fabrication job with a bit of brass rod. But the radiator itself is beautifully moulded. It was just sprayed black and then dry brushed with Ammo of MIG dry brush paint, and it really brings out the detail lovely. And the little sort of tubes and sticky out bits were eventually painted in brass, but I did that just before I mounted it, so hence you can't see it here. But you can see how lovely the radiator looks just with the dry brush. And that's it. We're ready for paint now. That's everything assembled, sanded, and sorted. So that is end of part 3. So in the next part is the main event really, because that was a bit of a non-event, was the painting. So I do the exhausts. I use my homemade masks for the first time. These are not my homemade masks. These are top-notch masks, which I used for the camouflage. And then at the end of the weathering, this is how she looks. So join me then for the next part of the painting and weathering of this beautiful, beautiful Arma Hurricane.